King Arthur and His Knights. Part 2. King Arthur was waiting for Duke Mordred to awaken after their first duel. While he waited, he decided to take a stroll through the forest to explore the area. During his wanderings, he heard singing, and as he approached, he discovered that the singer was Sir Gryant, one of the knights he had brought with him to Camelot. Gryant did not recognize Arthur and boldly challenged him to a friendly duel. Gryant challenged Arthur with bravado, referring to Guinevere. He wanted to prove himself, so Arthur accepted the challenge. They agreed that the winner would receive a service from the other for 7 days. Gryant, despite his skills as a knight, could not match Arthur's prowess, and he was quickly defeated. After winning, Arthur sent Gryant to inform Guinevere that he had been defeated by the knight who had given her the pearl necklace. As Arthur continued his stroll, he encountered knights Gawain, Ewan, and Belias, who also did not know he was the king. They challenged him to duels as well, but they were all defeated and returned to Guinevere with the same message. When the 4 knights returned to Camelot, they realized they had faced the same mysterious knight, which made them feel embarrassed. Upon returning to Camelot, Arthur found that the gardener, Chivalry, was angry with him for his absence. After a quarrel between them, Arthur displayed a side of his royal authority, which angered Chivalry further. Chivalry went to Guinevere to complain about Arthur's behavior, while Guinevere began to wonder if the little gardener and the White Knight were the same person. Shortly thereafter, Mordred returned, relying on his new alliance with 6 knights to confront Arthur. He made a stipulation: if he defeated the knights of Leodegrance, he would gain Guinevere and all of Leodegrance's kingdom. Guinevere summoned her 4 knights to help her, but Gawain refused to participate. Later, Chivalry the gardener brought a message to Guinevere, containing a request from the little gardener to organize a feast for him, which seemed strange. After seeing the necklace she had given Arthur, Guinevere decided to fulfill the request. When the knights held a feast for the gardener, Arthur used his magic hat to reveal his true identity. This astonished the 4 knights, who bowed in respect to him. The next morning, King Leodegrance witnessed the arrival of Duke Mordred, accompanied by 6 knights and a number of messengers and shield-bearers, exciting the crowd. However, Leodegrance felt powerless, as he had no knights. Most of his knights had left due to the peace that King Arthur had brought. Guinevere saw her father in this frustrating situation and urged him not to lose hope. She had a strong feeling that something would happen. Suddenly, the mysterious White Knight, King Arthur, appeared, followed by the 4 knights who had defeated the Duke. When they saw Arthur, Guinevere whispered, "We have survived." Duke Mordred expressed his worry and tension, demanding that the White Knight reveal his identity. But Sir Gawain reassured him that the White Knight had honored him with the fight. At first, Mordred tried to evade, downplaying Arthur and his companions, but he soon became embarrassed and began to fight. The battle ended quickly, as the 5 knights proved stronger than the Duke and his group, and Mordred was defeated in one of the most famous battles in the history of King Arthur's reign. The people of Camelot celebrated the victory, but the White Knight disappeared again, leaving the 4 knights to celebrate. The next morning, King Rience sent a message demanding the surrender of the White Knight and the lands, which was met with pride from King Leodegrance, who refused to comply. King Rience anticipated this response and told Leodegrance that he would soon come with a large army. Leodegrance summoned his daughter Guinevere and asked her about the White Knight, suggesting that he might be the right person to protect them. Guinevere admitted that she knew where he was and decided to take her father to the little gardener. When Guinevere took her father to the gardener, she asked him to remove his hat. When Arthur did so, Leodegrance recognized him immediately. Guinevere was in awe, realizing that she had been speaking to King Arthur without knowing his true identity. With the war promised by King Rience approaching, Arthur and Guinevere began to make plans for their marriage. Leodegrance presented a wedding gift to Arthur, which was the famous Round Table, notable for having 50 seats. This table represented the ideals of chivalry and honor, where the name of the true knight sitting at it would magically appear. Merlin told Arthur that there was a special seat called the Siege Perilous, reserved for one knight only, and anyone else who sat in it would meet their death. Arthur felt excited that his reign and glory would continue through this historical symbol. King Arthur and Lady Guinevere were married. Merlin used his magic and skill to bring forth the famous Round Table and set up a magnificent pavilion around it while Arthur was about to sit in the Siege Perilous. Merlin stopped him, explaining that only one knight could sit there, and he had not yet been born. Merlin pointed to the royal seat, which was more beautiful than all the others, for Arthur to sit on. When Arthur sat in the royal seat, letters of gold appeared bearing his name. Arthur invited the great knights to attend his wedding around the table. However, Merlin advised him that his table would not be complete today, and he chose a limited number of knights to be his first invitations, including Sir Bedivere, Sir Gawain, and Sir Ewan. After most of the seats were filled, all the knights stood up, drew their swords, and swore the oath of the Round Table, affirming that they would defend the weak and respect women, and that they would unite against evil. This was the moment of the founding of the Round Table, a symbol of chivalry and courage, with everyone pledging loyalty to one another until the end. After King Arthur lost 8 knights in a battle against 5 kings, he decided to choose 8 more knights to fill the seats at the Round Table. He selected 4 old knights and 4 new ones, and in the end, he struggled to choose who would take the last seat between Sir Tor and Sir Bedimachus, his nephew. After deep thought, Arthur decided to choose Sir Tor. But Arthur's decision angered Guinevere, who sought revenge for her brother because of this choice. She left with her son Bedimachus, while she began to plot her own revenge. Guinevere discovered that Merlin, despite his wisdom, had a great weakness, his love for beauty. She used this weakness to her advantage through the girl Vivian, who was known for her passion for wisdom. Guinevere promised her that she would help her obtain the knowledge she sought. Vivian planned to deceive Merlin by using 2 magical rings. She invited Merlin to King Arthur's court, where she presented the ring as a test for the wise. While none of the other knights succeeded in wearing it, Merlin did, but he did not realize he had fallen into a trap. After wearing the ring, Merlin became enchanted by Vivian's beauty and told her that he could give her his wisdom and magic. Merlin used his love for her to teach her all that he knew, including how to build castles and magic with the elements. At one moment, Vivian prepared a meal containing a sleeping potion. After Merlin ate the food and began to feel drowsy, he realized he had been deceived, but he was affected by his love. Before he fell asleep, he asked her to save King Arthur from the dangers he foresaw. But once Merlin fell asleep, Vivian used her magic to bind him. She wove a net around him and stripped him of his power, then imprisoned him in a heavy chest partially buried under a magical mist. Morgana returned to the court, pretending to be humble and asking for forgiveness for her past actions. She spoke to the king about his famous sword, Excalibur, and expressed great interest in seeing it up close. Arthur, feeling grateful for her return, welcomed her and agreed to let her take the sword for a short time to admire its beauty. But Morgana was actually planning to exploit this opportunity. Instead of merely looking at the sword, she intended to create a replica of it with the help of smiths and armorers. Indeed, she took the sword to her home to begin her wicked plan. After a while, Morgana returned to the court again and presented Arthur with a new gift, a beautiful black horse. The horse was very swift, causing Arthur and his friend Sir Accolon to embark on a hunting trip. The duo ventured into the forest, where they found themselves lost. While they wandered, they encountered a ship that they boarded. Arthur found himself in a dark dungeon with other knights, where he learned from one of them that Sir Dumas was the one who had imprisoned them all due to his greed. Meanwhile, Sir Accolon found himself in a crypt where Lady Jomny told him the story of his brother Sir Unslack, who suffered from the same greed that afflicted Sir Dumas. As Sir Accolon took a sword that appeared to be a perfect replica of Excalibur, a battle ensued between Arthur and Sir Accolon, neither of whom knew the other. During the fight, Vivian, who had come to rescue Arthur, intervened and used her magic to disarm Sir Accolon. When Arthur managed to reclaim the true Excalibur, the tables turned as Sir Accolon began to lose strength. Arthur eventually discovered that he had been fighting his friend. Despite feelings of regret, it was too late to save Sir Accolon, who was bleeding to death. After Arthur discovered the truth, he granted all of Sir Dumas's wealth, except for a small castle, to Sir Ontzlake and returned to his homeland. But matters worsened when Morgana attempted to steal Excalibur again, succeeding in taking the scabbard while Arthur slept. When Arthur awoke and discovered the scabbard missing, he realized that Morgana had been behind everything that had happened. He collaborated with Vivian to capture her, but she fled and threw the scabbard into the sea, where it disappeared forever. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. See you in part 3.